In this presentation, I'm going to be covering turf disorders. This includes a description of the disorders and also the impact on the turf. Now, it is important that we identify disorders correctly because we don't want to be applying the wrong things or doing the wrong practices to try and prevent the disorders when in fact it could be other things such as pests, diseases or damage. So one of the big things in turfs, especially sports turf, is fertilizer scorch. Now this occurs when excessive amounts of fertilizer are applied or when fertilizer is improperly distributed. So this can be with a little push fertilizer spreader. For example, you've stopped at the end of the run and still left the gates open on the fertilizer spreader, so that fertilizer is going to be dropping. It's all going to land in one area and it will very quickly burn that turf. You could see it in a matter of 10 minutes with anything that's not coated. Any sort of granular, uncoated organic fertilizers will burn really quickly. So the impact on the turf will be yellowing or browning of the blades of grass, especially along the edges, and then in severe cases, as I mentioned, the grass will die off, leaving bare patches. I have seen it where lumps of fertilizer have been left and completely roasted the grass. Next, we have hydraulic scorch. So the description of hydraulic scorch, it happens when hydraulic fluid, typically out of mowing equipment, top dressers and those sort of thing, leaks out of a pipe and makes contact with the turf. Now, it's not always the oil itself which kills the turf. It's normally the heat of the oil because it's being warmed up. You think if you're engineering your car, you wouldn't go and take your dipstick out and put it on your hand when it's hot. It is going to get warm. It is doing stuff. So it does burn the grass off. But also, obviously, it's not fantastic to have oil in the surface anyway. There are different methods here that you can do afterwards. I've seen people applying soapy water and all sorts of things. Realistically, one of the best ways is just to pull it up and returf it. But you've got to do what you can do best and what is the most environmentally friendly situation. I've seen people water them out, but obviously then the issue is the oil then goes off-site or somewhere else. So you're best containing it, you're best pulling it up and then keeping that contaminated soil to one side. So the effect on the turf is that the affected area will be dark, oily in appearance. It will smell of oil as well, so you'll be able to tell if you ever smell test it. The grass may turn brown or black and exhibit signs of stress such as wilting or slow growth. And this is, like I say, this is literally being cooked in oil. Next we have dry patch. So dry patch refers to localized areas of soil that become hydrophobic, meaning that they repel water instead of absorbing it. Now it does this because it forms a waxy layer on the surface of the soil. Affected areas will appear dry and exhibit water repellent properties, as I mentioned, with that waxy layer, and the grass in these patches will become noticeably thinner, discolored, and may die off completely if the conditions persist. So black layer is a big one, probably not for football unless it's a lower level because they tend to do coroughing of pitches and renovations. This is more of a local golf course, grassroots football, grassroots rugby sort of a situation, or potentially in your lawns. So description of black layer is it's a condition that occurs when organic matter accumulates and becomes anaerobic in the soil profile, leading to a black slimy layer. This is below the sand or the crown of the grass as well, should I say, and then just sits under the surface, and that's when it becomes anaerobic and it can't breathe, it can't get the oxygen to break down that organic matter, so it sits and creates those layers. And then what will happen, especially within sports turf, is that grass will sit on top of that with its crown and it'll pull out really easy because the roots in that matter, and obviously it's holding on to moisture as well, and it's causing you all sorts of problems beneath the soil. So it's ideally we don't want any organic matter or any black layer, should I say. Organic matter's fine, but no excessive amounts. So the impact on the turf is black layer is often associated with poor drainage. It has a foul odor and, as I mentioned, a weaker root system. The grass may appear yellow or thin, and its overall health and vigor will be compromised. Next, we have drought. Drought occurs when there's an extended period of time or insufficient water supply to the turf. The impacts are quite obvious. The grass will be affected by the drought and exhibit signs of stress. such as wilting, loss of colour, reduced growth. And in severe cases, the grass may become dormant or die off, leaving brown or bare patches. Now, there hasn't been too many times where I've seen grass actually die, but it has happened a lot more recently over the past few hot and dry summers. Usually it'll brown off like in the picture, and you can get some water on it and it'll actually come back. It's just gone dormant, it's protecting itself, a bit of water and a bit of food, and before you know it, it'll be green. Compaction, another major issue within lawns, sports turf and grasses. Compaction refers to the compression of soil, reducing the pore space and restricting the movement of air and water and nutrients. Obviously, with something like cricket, we want compaction on a wicket. That is the aim of what we're trying to produce. We're trying to produce a hard surface, so we're trying to get rid of the pores within the soil. Something I always say, you know, if people do it on a cricket square, don't do it anywhere else, because they do the complete opposite of what realistically you're going to do on any other turf during the playing season. During the rest of the year, they might aerate or do other top dressing and various different practices, or even relieve the compaction. But during their playing months, that's what they'll be doing. So the impact on the turf is the compacted soil leads to poor root development and increased surface hardness, as I mentioned. The grass may show signs of stress, including thinning, reduced growth, and increased susceptibility to diseases because of its poor plant health.